Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer, so let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
I don't even know how to begin today's episode.
Where do I begin?
To tell the story of how great a love can be. Okay, I have to start with a story about you.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say dream guest today. Today is dream guest. We can name this episode Dream Guest.
Oh, Judy.
I can die. I can die. I can die tomorrow. I can die right now. Judy looks like she's about to kill me, so I'll shut up.
All right. So when I started doing stand-up, I was in college, as you were.
Right. What school were you at?
Rutgers.
Uh-huh.
Now, I think I've told the story before on the show. Someone had dared me to do stand-up for Secret Santa, and that was the first time I did it. I had to write material about the people who lived on my floor. Then I was entered into a talent show.
Okay.
That Rutgers was having, and I won. And I got to perform with some people from Catch a Rising Star.
Oh.
And it was Larry Ambrose, Bill Sheft, and Adrian Tolsch.
Oh, my God.
So I got to do 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And after that 5 minutes,
Yeah.
Adrian said to me, "Kid, you got to come to Catch. I'm the MC." Of course, I thought, I'm going to be getting on. I'll be on the Tonight Show next week.
Right, yes.
And I started going in every Monday night and hanging out.
That's what you had to do.
Yeah,
hang
like
out.
all night
Right.
till 2, 3. Sometimes I didn't get on, but I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
One night, it was one of the first nights I was there. You walked in, and I was so starstruck. It was like
Really?
I was like, oh my God, Carol Leifer, because I had watched you on the Tonight Show. And didn't you do the? I don't know if you had done Letterman.
It was Letterman. Yeah. I didn't do the Tonight Show until very
later. Okay, so I had watched. Yeah, because I didn't even watch the Tonight Show. So I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and I remember seeing you, and I was just like, I can't. That was one of my first memories of like being in a club in New York.
Wow.
And you were, like where the doors were, and then the bar was,
Yes,
like
the
if
left.
you walked in was on the left, and you were leaning against the wall on the right, talking to someone, and I almost shit in my pants.
Oh, my God.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the one, the only, the incredible Carol Leifer is here!
Oh, my God. Wow.
I mean, I can't even tell you. I was like, you were like my hero. I mean, because there weren't a lot.
No.
There weren't a lot to choose from. I mean, I had my heroes of, Joan, and I loved Toady Fields, and I loved Mom's Mabley because she was so down and, dirty. And you were just such a master joke writer and just made me giggle. Like you made me, it was you, I mean, you still are, but I'm just saying it was, how like when you walk in a club and you see someone.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like when first time I went to Catch and I saw Elaine Boozler, I think, because I was like, if someone like that could do it, maybe I could do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very honored. Thank you.
So, just so you know, you've had a major impact on me.
Oh, good. I'm just glad that story didn't end. Then I went over to you, and you were so mean.
No, you didn't. I think I was too nervous to even talk to you.
Because I remembered working with you, even. But
I remember when we
obviously-
worked together. we did something because Lori David
Yes.
got us something, or
Right.
Lori Leonard at the
Then,
time.
yes,
in
nay
Boston.
Leonard.
Yeah, and
Was it Boston?
yeah, we were in Boston, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm working with Carol. I was like freaking out. But you know what I remember about that?
What?
You remember Cindy Eaton? She
Yeah.
was this comic, and you kept asking me if if I thought she was a lesbian.
Oh, really?
Yes,
That's
and I
very
was like,
odd.
yeah, and I was like, God, she's asking me all these lesbian questions,
Hmm.
and because I was a I don't know, because I've been really hiding it for so long. And I was like, oh, Carol's really interested in
That is very
Yeah,
interesting.
so-
Shape of things to come.
Yes, The Shape of Water. The winner is Carol.
Topical.
Your resume really, I don't think anyone else really can even compare to, what you've done as far as, writing for. I mean, you're just so fucking successful. But the thing that you're so positive. How can you be a comic and be so positive? You're just so positive.
I am positive.
But were you always like that?
I don't know necessarily, but I know that to be successful, and what I talk about in my book.
Yes, I read this book
Which
called
you were
How to
kind enough
Succeed
to read.
in Business Without Really Crying.
Yes.
I'm holding it up like we have like we're on television. It's such a great read, and it's really you get the essence of you
Thank you.
in it, and the stories are fantastic. But yeah, you are one of the most positive people I've met in this business.
Well, I
And
am,
HIV positive as well. Wait, where's my bell?
It's too.
Oh, wait. I didn't. Carol Leifer, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah,
That's the Jew
okay,
bell.
all
Anytime
right.
we mention anything remotely Jewish, the bell rings.
Well, I am positive because I found that negativity will always get in your way and trip you up and not lead you towards success. So when you realize that things are not personal, because we're comics, we're sensitive people, and that it's not personal and you can let things roll off your back, things will go a lot better.
I'm still working on that.
Are you really?
Yeah. It's
Yeah?
not working. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. You grew up on Long Island.
Yes.
Mother psychologist, father optometrist.
Yes.
And your father was the funny one.
My father was hysterical.
Yeah.
He was the Tumblr
Oh, I didn't do that for your
of
mother.
the neighborhood, as we
Oh, there we go.
neighborhood is not Jewish.
No.
He was funny. He liked to tell jokes, was good at telling jokes, and I watched him as a little girl telling jokes, and I saw how he captivated people and got attention,
Right.
and brought people together by being funny, and that had a huge impact on me.
And it seems like the more you read about you, like he would have liked to do what you
would
did.
have liked to, but it's interesting, and I'm trying to kind of dissect it now. When I asked him, because I said to him once, Dad, why did you never go into it? And he was like, in my generation, we had to make a living. Like
Right.
you didn't, that wasn't that dream
Right.
accessible. It was, you got a job and you found
Right.
optometry and that's what you did. So I always felt badly that he could never pursue it. But at the same time, I knew my dad really well, and I
Right.
do think what you have to go through would have been too much for him.
Yeah, that's because I interviewed my mother for my 25 Questions for a Jewish Mother show.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said,
Which I love.
Thank you. I said to her, what would you have done if you hadn't had children? And she said, I would have done what you do.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't even imagine her in an audition and them saying, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I worked so goddamn. Thank you. I drove here. I just
Yeah.
can't imagine her dealing with the constant,
Right.
you're a piece of crap.
Yes.
Next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you get to, pretty normal childhood.
Very normal.
Like no rape or pillaging or homelessness or, just really. But the mother psychologist, that must have been really hard.
The mother psychologist is definitely a trip. I joke about it in my act, but it's true. Like the shrink hat is always on.
Right.
You know, like I remember driving with my mom practicing when I was in high school, and I accidentally hit a squirrel, and I felt horrible,
Right.
obviously. And my mom was like, you know, Carol, clearly the squirrel displayed suicidal tendencies. You know. So, but there's always the analytic, but I think I'm a true mixture of both my parents, because my mom was serious and analytic and very mellow side, and my dad was, you know, the joke teller and the
Right.
social butterfly, and I feel like I got kind of a good mix of both of them.
And you can see that in your comedy as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But I remember a funny story about my mom. At some point, my brother was dating a woman that he brought home, but it was clear at the table that nobody liked her. And
Was she Jewish?
she was, yeah.
Okay.
And I remember going in the kitchen, and my mother came in carrying a casserole and just looked at me and
Casserole.
said, "She's very hard to take," and then just went right out.
She's
Very
very
even,
hard to
very
take.
hard
Did he
to
marry
take.
her?
No, he did not. No. So it's just that she made me laugh the way that she would
Right.
deliver things like that.
Right. And you were into theater, and then you go to Binghamton.
I did.
But here's the thing. You were a cheerleader. Like I think you're the only female comic who was a cheerleader in high school.
I have to say, yeah, I don't have a lot of the same stories that my female brethren
Right.
have.
Like
Yeah.
I was in the marching band and I was 6 feet tall at 13, and I got called Bigfoot and Sasquatch every day, and I hated school so much. And I'm reading about you, and it's like, and I was the cheerleader, and I was like, oh. All right, so you go to Binghamton, and which is a great school, by the way. But
Yeah.
it wasn't called Binghamton when you went to it.
Well, SUNY Binghamton Harper College. I
Right.
think now it's just called Binghamton
Yeah,
University.
but it's really hard to get into.
I know. I don't even think I would get in.
Yeah, they're all hard to get into now.
Yeah.
Okay, and you befriend Paul Reiser,
Yes, we're in the same theater group.
right? I mean, like, what are the Oh wait, Paul Reiser. Sorry. What are the chances that you're in the same theater group and you're both major stars? Like, it's unbelievable. Like, usually, the percentage of that happening is, one.
Is low.
Yeah.
But the thing that Paul had that I'd never met before with anybody was that he said to me, because he was so funny,
Right.
and still is, but he was like, "Oh, summers I go down to New York City." He grew up in the city, and he said, "And I audition at these comedy clubs." And it was literally like, "What is he talking about?" I
Right,
don't know
right.
what. I always thought, like, is he like Vic Damone, or like
Right.
has his act? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so he was the first person who told me about this world, because I'm always fascinated with talking to other comics, especially ones like us who go so far back. Like, how did you even find out about this world?
Right.
Like, I don't know if I would have
Right.
had I not met Paul. And then I went and watched him do an open mic night
Where was it?
at Catch. And he was very funny because,
Mm-hmm.
doing 5 minutes, and he was good right away.
Do you know who was emceeing? Was it Belzer or?
It probably was David Say, because that's
Oh,
who was
right.
emceeing when I
Right.
went on stage the first time. And then it was like, oh, I like this world, because I've always said that, as opposed to acting, or you got to find an agent and go to class and develop a method.
Right.
I was in college. I stood online during the day and I got a number, and I
Right,
went on
right.
that night. That's the best thing about being a comedian.
It's like you're equal. You're on an equal playing field.
Yes.
Like I remember doing it for the Improv and Catch, and you stood online. You got your number. The other thing, and you had wrote about this in the book too, which I like to tell the young comics these days.
Right.
You write about when you auditioned. Too bad if someone puked in the audience right before you went on. Too bad if someone was doing filthy material before you got. You had one shot at getting stuff,
Yes.
and you had to do it live. It wasn't like you could tape yourself over. And I mean, these kids these days have no idea how easy they have it. I mean,
Easy in what respect?
well, I feel like you know, as far as, I mean, like, I remember those SNL auditions, and I remember going on at Catch when you never knew who was going to be in the audience. And sometimes the circumstances would be against you, like just a bad crowd, or they got the check spot, anything. But it was too bad. That was your slot. It was,
But that's what I still love about stand-up, though.
Right.
Whenever you're talking to young people, it's like the only way you're going to learn to do it is reading my book and then doing it. There's no other way out. And that hasn't changed since day one.
Right.
When somebody made people laugh, doing jokes about fire and the wheel in prehistoric days. You got to get up and do it. And that's the only way you learn how to do it. I love these people that are like, oh, I took a class. Like, am I ready to go on Fallon now? It's like, no.
Right.
No, you have to really, that's the only way. And the only way to write new material is to keep doing it and doing it in front of people, and, that process, shaping it.
And, I always say, there is something you get from stage time. You can't get it any other way. You can sit there at a computer and write jokes, but unless you get on stage and do them, you have no idea, A, if they work. I mean, there's so many times I write a bit and I think it's the funniest thing. And then I go on and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, but that's how I am. So I'm like, are you really?
Yeah.
You don't think? And I'll do it. I'm so relentless. I'll keep doing it until it's just like, Judy, you're wasting everyone's time.
And then you have to give up.
Right.
And the other thing that people, I always find, don't know about comedy is that, the biggest question is always like, does a joke work in New York, but it won't work in Omaha? It's like, it's amazing how universal humor is. And if a joke doesn't work in New York, it's probably not going to work in San Diego. A joke is a joke. And people either respond to it or not. I mean, obviously, I have New York jokes that people will laugh at because of
about
New York.
the subway. Yeah.
But I find that fascinating about humor.
So you decide, you go to this open mic night, and then you say to your parents, "Listen, I mean,
I passed the audition.
Right, you passed at Catch.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound like a crazy person. You went to audition and then decided to leave college.
Yeah, and you say to your parents, "Listen, I got to do this. I need to go to Queens College."
Yes, I'll transfer to Queens College,
now,
which was a good thing because my mom graduated from there.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, so that was good.
Right.
So it wasn't like you were being fully Jewish and saying, "I'm going to get my degree."
Yes, but I think in retrospect, I look at my parents now, and they were so great about it.
Right.
I can't believe how great they were.
Because you have. Well, we'll get to your child soon.
But I remember my dad saying two things. He was like, "Carol, you got to strike while the iron's hot."
Right.
And when I look back now, I passed the audition at a comedy club. It wasn't exactly an iron getting hot. And the other thing he said, which always makes me laugh to this day, was, "Carol, it's a cash business and you can't beat cash." So, I think also he wanted me to pursue his dream. And my mother confided in me many years later that she thought it was something I was going to get out of my system. And that's fine. And that's also the benefit of youth. When you're 21, you can say, "Oh, I want to feel like doing this," and nobody gets too worked up about it.
It's funny because Phyllis Diller started at 37.
I still can't
and left her
that.
Kids,
Wow. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, well, she had to because he wasn't making any money. And boy, was she talented. I have so many notes that I wrote while I was reading your book. You got, also, when you were growing up, comedy albums.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing that I feel we were lucky to have grown up in the time that we did. You were captive to your parents' taste.
Right,
what they played in the living room was what you listened to.
Right.
And I was lucky that my parents, not only with musical comedy, I mean, I could lip sync Fiddler on the Roof and albums like that, but they loved all the great comedy albums of the time. 2,000-Year-Old Man.
Oh, right, Fiddler on the Roof. Yes.
Vaughn Meter, Alan Sherman. But not only that, it created this atmosphere in the house of loving and revering comedy.
Right.
Watching the comics on Ed Sullivan. It was just all around me.
And you did it together. Was your brother like that too, or?
The whole family did, yeah.
Because it's interesting, because my humor comes from, the humor in my household is just sarcasm and depression and sadness, and it's just like
And your podcast is called Kill Me Now.
Yeah. It's just, it's like, it's what I would have probably, wished for, and this great family. Did you get bat mitzvahed?
No, I didn't till in my 40s. Lori, my wife, and I got bat mitzvah together.
Oh, okay, I gotta vomit. That is so beautiful.
So nice.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, we both decided.
Do you have
to do
talit?
it. Oh, here's the crazy part. I wore the talis that my dad wore at his bar mitzvah in 1930.
No way.
I did.
Wait, so when was your father born? 1917? Mm-hmm. Mine was 1916.
Wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
I don't normally meet people because my dad was, my parents were older.
Same. My
Yeah,
mother
yeah.
was 41 when she was born in 22. And my father's born in 1916.
Wow.
I know. That was the other fantastic part of it. Okay, so.
But here's, the other thing, though, that I think is important in the formative years.
Yes.
Was I also worked for my dad. He had an office in Queens Boulevard, his optometry office.
What was the name of it? Just
Eyesight Opticians. I don't know if they're still there or not, but I worked for him for 2 summers. And what was great about it was I got to see my dad as a boss, and he was not only a really good boss, but he was a good shopkeeper. Like, I think of it all the time when I'm just out in the world. Like, a big thing with my dad was if people were waiting in the waiting room, he would walk in and go, "Hi, everybody. We're going to get to you all. Sorry about the wait. Just hang in there." And now I always say this to Lori whenever we're somewhere, like, nobody's saying anything about, the wait. And it just takes 1 second to go, acknowledging people and that kind of stuff. And his employees loved him.
Right.
And,
that says a lot.
yeah. And his work ethic of being on time and, being positive.
Right.
So I think that was good for me to see too.
Wow. And he lived through the Depression and still.
Yeah.
Wow. Was he really cheap?
He was. I'm working on a bit about it now. Like, I remember, because it was like growing up in generic hell. Because it was like I wanted Tropicana orange juice.
Right.
Frozen orange juice.
Right. Same.
And wanted a TV guide, but it's like the listings are in the paper.
Right. I never used 411 ever.
Right.
Oh
my God.
And the thermostat.
Yeah.
Don't even touch. It was like minus 20 degrees icicles on my comforter.
Absolutely. Oh, even like, I would go to my best friend's house. She had Tropicana, or like that kind of stuff. And I remember buying, when I was an adult, my dad opened my fridge and I had the small Tropicana individual things. He was like, "Carol, you're paying for the packaging." It was like, yeah, no. And it's still in me now because I totally am a bargain hunter, and, it's in your DNA.
Right. I went the complete opposite. And I hate myself for it because because I'm like, you know what? I could die tomorrow. I'm going to get the,
Right.
And
but there's a good side to that too.
Right. But then you have to stop doing that after a while. You realize you can't afford the steak.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
All right, so you pass, you go to Queens College, you graduate,
Yes.
and here you are. You're just doing stand-up.
No, I graduated. Right. I would go to school by day.
Right.
And do my sets
at night.
And then
And you're living at home?
I was living at home on Long Island. But it was so funny because it was so new, stand-up comedy. I was a theater major. Like, my theater professor, who I just realized like a week ago, his name was Paul Maharis. And I'm looking at West Side Story.
Yeah.
He was George Maharis's brother, and I didn't even realize that until this many years later.
Funny.
Isn't that incredible.
Yeah. But anyway, he was like, why don't you do an independent study and tape your, I don't even know if we call them sets, and tape your performances, and we'll listen to them. And, so I got credit for doing stand-up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember people don't know that the comedy clubs had a band. The Catch a Rising Star had a band. Mm-hmm. Pat Benatar used to go in there.
Oh my God. I tell that story about how when I waited online with Paul to get numbers to go for audition night, she had already kind of made it, and she breezed in to rehearse during the day, and she turned around to the line and she went, hang in there, guys, it works.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I just, I did my DNA 23andMe.
Yeah.
And I got a message from Eddie Rabin.
Oh, he told me that.
Yeah, we're cousins. We're second cousins.
That is crazy.
The shortest Jewish piano player. He was the piano player at Catch a Rising Star.
Oh my God.
And he's like 4 feet tall. He's like Paul Schaefer light.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. He told me that on Facebook.
Oh my God.
Who's like, are you? All right. Anyway, okay,
So I graduated from Queens, but then I needed to have a day job.
Right.
So
first, I love this story.
First I went to this, I forgot who recommended this guy. I worked at Candler Coffee Company, but it didn't work. And then he said, I have a friend.
Candler. Yeah.
Who is a private eye.
I love that. Yeah.
And he needs a secretary. So I thought right away, and you have to be a certain age to get this reference. Oh my God, I'll be like Peggy from Mannix. And he said, go over. And it's so funny because I came down 7th Avenue to get here, and his office was 450 7th Avenue. And he said he needs a secretary. And I met with this guy. His name was George, who was the private eye.
But describe how you, like before you went in, what you thought you were going to be walking into.
Well, like a private eye, like,
right.
Just kind of this romantic kind of thing. And it was a guy who gave polygraph tests to people that wanted to work at places like Burger King and escort services. So the waiting room was like potential hookers and
Stormy Daniels,
and burger slingers.
Right.
But what was great about the job was he was like, I just need a typist to write up these reports. And I was like, great, I can type. And I just said to him, because from being a comic, I was going on at 1 and 2 in the morning.
Right.
I said, instead of 9 to 5, would you consider letting me work from 11 to 6 with no lunch? And he said, great. And then I had my job. So I did that for about a year.
Yeah, I remember when I started, and I worked too. I was a typesetter because I typed really fast too. And then I worked for magazines, and you'd code you'd like input the articles, right?
Right.
And code all the font and everything. And I did it for money, and then eventually, when I didn't have to work as many hours, I said, "Can I work enough hours just to have health insurance?" And a lot of, I remember, I don't know if it was like this with you, but there were a lot of comics who would have no money and just complain and not work during the day and just whine and complain that they had no money. And I was like, get a fucking job.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised at that because I had to work because I got an apartment.
Right.
And how am I going to make my
but there
rent?
Remember, there were people in their cars and I don't know. All right, so you're very responsible. Okay, so you start getting gigs.
Yes.
Let's explain the time. So we're in the 80s.
It's not even the 80s.
Late 70s, right. And it's about to boom. Mm-hmm. Comedy's about to become this huge.
I remember I got this job to do Baruch College. I waited for it.
Sorry.
And it was $100.
Wow, that must have been
and that was like, oh my God, I'm in the money.
Right.
Like, amazing. And it was gigs like that, and then, like these Jersey gigs that were always like $40.
Right.
And that wasn't like that bad.
Right. I remember did you ever work at Comedy U Grand? You were gone. But there was this.
Was that Barry Katz's room?
No, it was.
That was Boston Comedy.
That was, what was his name? The two got Bert and.
Ernie.
I'm glad you said it. I'd have gotten in trouble.
Bert. Oh, I forgot. Bert Haas, I think his name was. And I forgot the other guy, but we found out he did porno movies. Anyway. they had a women's comedy night. This is where I met all my generation, Wanda and, all these. And they had a women's comedy night on Thursday night. And I remember the first time they paid me and I got $5. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Incredible
paid.
feeling.
Yeah.
Amazing. And even like making $40 to do Jersey gigs.
That's a lot for that period of time.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. I remember, you'd get in these cars with these people that you didn't know. And I remember getting in the car once and the guy was driving me. I was like, you don't have a rear view mirror. And he was like, honey, you get it all from the sides. Like the side mirrors cover you.
There were comics at that time who were so bad, but they had a car.
Yeah.
Who would only get the gigs because they had a car.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Minervini. What were Gary
Minervini?
Grant? Do you remember Gary Grant?
No.
Oh.
Balazzos. Jim Balazzos.
Oh, yes!
I did a lot of gigs for him. And Jerry Stanley.
Right.
It's so funny. He's a Facebook friend of mine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people like that.
So who are you? So Larry David was emceeing
At Catch.
At Catch when you passed, and Jerry Seinfeld was emceeing at the comic strip when you passed. Mm-hmm. And you didn't know them before.
No.
And they sort of become your cohorts.
Yes.
I mean, can you just, all right, we have Paul Reiser, you, Jerry, Larry. I mean, this crop, who else was?
Larry Miller.
Oh, Larry Miller. I loved him.
Was part of
that.
that.
Oh, wait, sorry. Okay.
The comics of Mark Schiff.
Yes. Love him. He's very Jewy, Mark Schiff.
Yeah, he's very into it.
Yeah.
Rita Rudner was at Catch at the time. Nancy Parker, I don't think
I love Nancy. I still see Nancy.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Is she still performing?
No, done. Mm-hmm. She was so talented.
Oh, and Adrian
was
at the comic strip.
Bill Sheft.
I hadn't met him quite yet.
Right.
I don't think.
Larry Ambrose.
But Gilbert, Gottfried,
Ronnie Shakes.
Yes. But Gilbert and Fred Stoller.
Oh, yeah, I love Freddie.
Yeah. So all those people.
Was there anyone from your group that didn't make it?
Plenty.
Really?
Yeah. There were a lot of people that
went by the wayside.
Yeah. Just couldn't bear it. What you have to bear.
Oh, it's unbearable.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies. So you start getting, these gigs. When do you quit, first of all? When do you quit your day job?
I quit my day job about a year. I did that from I think September to June.
Right. And then you were making enough money. And when did you move out of your parents' house?
Oh, I had moved out when I took the secretary job.
When you got, all right.
Yeah.
And
I lived with my friend Jim Matthews, who I'm still friends with, who I was a backup singer for his cabaret act.
Really?
And we moved into an apartment.
Do you have a good voice?
No, he had the really good voice.
Right.
He was backup, but
right.
We found an apartment at 64th and Lex for a fourth floor walk up for $450.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many bedrooms?
2.
What? How many bathrooms?
1.
That's all right. I have one bathroom. I'm such a loser. All right. When do you realize, okay, this is working? This is, I'm on my way.
That's a very good question.
Because you get those moments through your whole career. But when was the first time you were like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is
probably when, we had the New York Laugh Off. And I think it's so funny. I know that there are still contests.
Right.
But I was the only woman, and it was the 5 contestants were Eddie Murphy, who came in last, me, Rick Overton, Mark Schiff, and Steve Middleman, who won.
Oh, Steve Middleman.
Yeah.
He had no chin, and then he got one.
Right. And then it was
my mother wanted me to marry him.
Oh, did she?
Well, because he was tall.
Yeah.
And I guess I did a gig and my parents came. And anytime there was a tall guy near, Judith, look.
Yeah.
And I was like, has a penis. I didn't say that, but Judith, he's tall. And tall men are not attracted to tall women.
They're not.
No, because they probably get the same. They like short women.
Uh-huh.
And short guys and black guys love tall women. Isn't that interesting?
Short guys, though, often feel less than when they're with a tall. They make it a big deal.
Yeah.
you know?
What do you mean?
They make it a big deal, like that the woman wants to wear heels, or they feel emasculated by their
Right.
height,
Okay, I'm still wanting you to shave that mustache thing.
and that is why it is still on my face.
Okay. Anyway,
But that was around
Right.
the time that I developed a bit of a problem with alcohol.
right.
Because I was drinking to get loose and to
Before
lose
you
my
went-
nerves.
right.
Yeah.
And how did you stop?
It was a couple of years of drinking wine, and then it
Red or
started
white?
to become white. Mm-hmm. It became a problem because it became all about timing, and one glass of wine became, I need 2 glasses of wine.
Right.
I have to get to the club at this time
Right.
to drink it and then get buzzed. And,
Right.
and then I got the Letterman show, and then it was like, I remember I did something where I opened for Robert Klein for a radio show, and I was in the green room drinking wine. And I was thinking, this is bad.
Right.
This is not good.
Right.
And when I got the Letterman show, I made a vow to myself. I said, I'm not going to be, I got to cut this off at the pass now. So I
Right.
just went cold turkey. And I had for a couple months, had to relearn being nervous and performing being nervous.
Right. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I never,
Never,
ever. I won't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, and to this day, I
Right.
don't. And I'm happy that it didn't become a real alcohol problem where I had
Right.
to go to AA or anything.
Right.
And I just stopped. But it definitely was a problem.
Don't you think we're better at without doing it?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like I feel like I need every synapse of my brain, and I want to know everything that's going on.
Yes. No, you need
And then
that.
I have my wine afterwards. But there's still comics. I remember Lou DiMaggio used to stand there with his, I don't know what he had. He had a little glass, and I was like, how is he doing his act and drink? Like, I don't.
Yeah. And I'm still that way when I go to an industry party because a lot of times I'd like to drink,
Right.
but I don't because I want to be sharp for
Right.
who I meet and run
Right.
into and what I say.
Right. No, I get it. All right, so you get Letterman. Mm-hmm. How many times did you audition before you got Letterman?
He saw me on the New York Laugh Off,
Right.
and recommended me to the Tonight Show,
Right.
and they turned me down. But then when Letterman got his show,
Right.
they called my agent and said, "Oh, will she come on the show?"
Right.
So that's how it happened.
Do you remember your first joke you did on Letterman?
Oh God, somebody just put it up on YouTube recently. I'm not sure what the first one was.
I remember your act.
You do.
I remember you do that to me, 2,
Yes.
3, and I do that. Oh, that
Right.
after you're with someone for a real long time, sex
right.
becomes a well choreographed
Mambo. Very good. Yes.
Yes, and then I remember, bye now, bye now,
That's
bye
right.
bye
And
bye
then
bye.
they stole that
Stole
on
it. Everyone stole
SNL.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that. I was like, that's Carol Leifers. So you do Letterman. Mm-hmm. Did anything change? Like, were the comics like, Carlton Letterman?
No, and I'm assuming you felt this at the time that we came up as well. People were very supportive.
Yes.
And it wasn't people who wanted to trip you and
It's such a tight community.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I think it's like that now. I mean, I still go out like 4 nights a week
Where
to
do
the
you go?
cellar. I go to the cellar. All the time I go to West Side. I mean, like, I'm still like, I just
I heard
started
that West
doing.
Side Comedy Club is good.
I like it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I still go out like I just started. And I don't know. There's something like when John Joseph is there or someone, that it's, you just want to hug, and I don't know. It's different. I think the people that of the next generation are really close, I guess. But there's a little bit of
They've got their own groups, but it definitely is more
It's
saturated now.
And it's clicky. It's kind of clicky.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
pretty
you're in,
clicky.
yeah.
Are there a lot of women? More women?
Yes. Yes. And I'm going to not say who, but the other night I was working and I saw a young woman on stage and I went in to watch because I love supporting the ladies. And I was watching and then I was, she was in the middle of a bit. So I was trying to figure out what she was talking about. And then I heard, and that's what happens when you take a shit. And I was like, I can't take it.
Yeah.
And then she started talking about anal. And I thought, what did we, this is not feminism.
Yeah.
Feminism isn't like talking like a jerk guy. You know what I don't know. I just was like, there's so many other topics that we can cover.
No, that bothers me as
Yeah.
well. And that gets really old really quick.
Right. And, it was and it remains really about doing the work. That's what the thing is. Like, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't want to do the work. So, all right, you do Letterman. Now, I wrote down a bunch of, like, great stories of you going on the road.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, the Beach Boys.
Oh, the Beach Boys. All right. Well, so right after I did Letterman, it went really well the first time. And then they invited me back. I was on April 1st. Then they invited me May.
Right.
And then they said, come back in September.
Right.
And the third time that I did the show, my agent got a call that Carl Wilson, this is how long I've been around, Carl Wilson, a Beach Boy who is dead. Got in touch with my agent and said, we want to offer Carol opening for us in Lake Tahoe Christmas week. So I was excited,
Right.
but I was nervous too,
Right.
because I was a little green for the casino
Right.
crowds. I didn't know that yet,
Right.
but I was. And I went and did this gig, and to say that it did not go well was an understatement. Just people ate me up, and they were talking, and no one policing the room, no one watching the room. The Beach Boys tuning up while I was on stage.
I know, I read that.
I
like, it's
literally-
so rude.
I know. And I had to go back to no manager or agent with me, just going, Beach Boys, can you not tune
Right.
up while I'm on? And finally culminating in a New Year's Eve show or Christmas or I don't know, whatever, where
Right.
there were a bunch of frat boys right down front who gave me so much shit, were pulling on my mic cord. So
No way. I
Literally,
read that in the
yes.
book, but I'm acting
Yeah.
like I'm surprised. What?
yeah, pulling on my mic cord out
People,
of my head.
it's so unbelievable the crap
Yes.
that we had. Tell the story about the corporate gig with they didn't have a spotlight. This is the best story.
Oh, this is a very loving story about
Yeah.
Joan Rivers. I went to do a corporate date in New York. I forgot what company it was from, maybe car salesman, I don't know. But I got there, again, we travel solo, comics, without agent, manager. And I was supposed to be the headliner, but they got Joan Rivers to come up and do a couple minutes and introduce me. So I arrive at the gig, and I see that as a comic, you need a mic and a stand, and you also need a spotlight.
So people know where to look. Yeah.
Yes, in a dark room. So I got there, and I said to the tech guy, I see the mic and the stand. I said, where is the spotlight? And he looked at me like, we don't have it, Cher. Sorry. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Whatever. It was beating a
Right.
dead horse. I was like, not going to have a spotlight. And like most things with comics, when you see that things are not going to go, you just grin and bear it.
Right.
So then Joan came, and Joan walked in. She was very nice and immediately said hello to me and looked at the stage. And she's like, where's the spotlight? And of course, this tech guy now is like, oh, I don't know, Miss Rivers. Well, that's ridiculous. So she bounds on stage to bring me on and literally does her couple of minutes and says, look, I'm only doing a couple minutes. I'm bringing Carol Leifer on. But I got to tell you, there is no spotlight at this gig, and it is so unprofessional, and you better give her 1,000% attention because it's no way to run a corporate event, and you guys should be ashamed of yourself. And walked off, and it really, really helped me because then after that they were so shamed by Joan Rivers. But I love that story a lot because it also shows the camaraderie among comics.
And what a great woman she was.
Yeah.
She was like, her act, she was caustic.
Yes.
But she was classy. Her work ethic, I think no one.
Crazy.
And just a kind, always showed up. Like anytime I was doing, like she was so supportive.
Yeah.
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Kill me now.
Just Kill Me Now.
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.